Okay. One of my problems that I don't like about more so like this culture's, the American culture's, Christianity is that they have created this narrative that if when your relationship with God, you have to hear from Him, and you have to have something like a a whisked up transformative experience, and you will be transformed in your journey with Christ, but it's not gonna always look like how you think it is. Because and but I do blame the Christian community about that. I'm Christian myself, but I don't like that because they say like this lady was crying, and I empathize heavily with her because I've had moments like that. I've had moments where I'm like, dude, I want a supernatural experience, and uh, I don't know. For me, once can we even handle a supernatural experience? Because we say we want it, but do we even will we even believe it? Let's say I did put my hand on somebody and they get healed. I can be I'm like a Timothy man, and yet God's been continuously with me. That's a whole different thing. I've had a conversation with somebody about some real theological stuff like free will versus predestination. That's a whole different topic. But my issue is just like expectation, Christian expectation, church expectation. Actually, they'll tell you here's to hear from God, and I can't stand those conversations because what Christ gave us, like what the letters told us, here's what God's will is for your life. Your sanctification. Just think about that. Your sanctification. What is that? To be like Christ. What is that? To be righteous. Jesus said, if you're not more righteous than the Pharisees and I think Sadducees, I'm sorry, paraphrasing, then you will not enter the kingdom of God. Why did he say that? He said that because if you accept Christ's righteousness on behalf of simply belief, if you accept righteousness of God through Christ and his sacrifice, you therefore gain the righteousness that is required, that is essentially past those Pharisee stuff. So that's what one thing he requires. And then the other thing is to show it with how you behave. You love one another. The third one is to share the faith. But these are the things that you need to do. Believe and then do. And also, oh my bad, there's a third one. It's not a gang sign, just relax. It's to practice righteousness. So because you're again, this just think about it. Just think about it from a psychological level. If you came to this perspective that you were saved and your sins are wiped out, and this is not to abuse the faith, this is not to abuse the grace that was given. If you came to the faith and you're dubbed righteous, what do you do in this new state of a blank slate? Well, I want to do good now. I'm not, and this is what I mean to go to therapy, because sometimes people's beliefs are not always they're not always just like conscious thoughts that's like that they have, or like self-worth issues. That's why I'm like, find somebody, a very smart person to navigate those internal issues, because some of those stuff might be just stuff in the past where people just threw dirt on your name when you were really young and you needed support, and then you just living as an adult, and those thoughts just keep popping up in your stress. And because your life is just really unmanageable, those things pop up and they say, hey, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And it's just like, you don't want to believe them, but they're automatic in your mind. And again, that's just your brain grabbing those things in the past, and you just, it just is going out. Now again, there's probably a lot of psychological stuff, but essentially it's stuff that comes out with stress, and probably stuff that's just not resolved inside of you, as far as I can understand. But dang, why did I get into that rabbit hole? I forgot. But I'm sorry. My thing is just like expectation from Christians. They tell you, or at least like Christian leaders and stuff like that, how to hear from God. And then you have your pastor tell you, or you have somebody who's very charismatic and they talk to you and stuff like that. Here's how to hear from God. We already heard from God. There's no extra revelation. How to hear from God, you live as a Christian. And yes, sometimes you fast, but fasting is not supposed to be for just looking pious. It's supposed to have you increase your connection with God and just have all the worldly things kind of blow away. So therefore you're like, I'm really in tune with you. I care. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity to just be here. You saved me from my sins. You cleared me. You gave me a clean slate. I'm perfect before you through just simply believing what you've done for me. So I'm grateful and I'm thankful. And so, as you continue this idea, you now have the opportunity. If you hear about like therapists, they try to clear out all the junk in that's in your subconscious and stuff like that, so you have the opportunity to now live as a free person. Like that sounds pretty Christian to me, but I get it. People will disagree, but it's just like you will have the opportunity to start figuring out, hey, what do I want to do? So long as it's not sin, you're not promoting sin, the choice is yours. Now, essentially, what do you want to do? What hobbies you want to do? People keep trying to make it as if, and I hate this too. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but we do this thing where if you hear from God, you're gonna follow some profound purpose. Oh, so profound. This. Oh, I became a speaker. I got a book. I have a book. My book has not gotten anywhere. It's okay. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. That's kind of irrelevant. I wanted to do something, so that's what I did. But my thing is just, you don't need a profound experience. Like, sometimes it's just about figuring out what hobbies you like. Sometimes it's about clearing trauma. Sometimes it's about living in that freedom of Christ. Like freedom. You believe you're free. You believe you're righteous. Now, what do you want to do? Well, I want to go to a concert. Okay, cool. Is it something that kind of keeps in mind? I think it's Galatians. No, it might be Galatians, but it's pretty much like, do they promote good things? Do they promote some sort of righteousness? Are they talking about like wild, crazy things? And if they are talking about wild, crazy things, is that something that's influencing you to do wild, crazy things? If I think there is a freedom that is detached from like satanic panic and stuff like that. There's people like, for instance, there reminds me of this Gideon. You remember that Penn Jillette message? He said, "Yo, I was really touched by that," and that Gideon said, "Hey, I enjoyed your content," because he's a magician too. If you didn't know, he's a well known atheist, but he's also, I think he's a magician. And so he was just like, "Oh, I really appreciated your content," and that dude was touched because he was like, "Wow, he really likes what I do," And that's part of the thing. Is, again, it's sharing love. Now, it's other things, but that's part of the key of it. Is that, hey, God loved you, so therefore you love other people, and this is loving all types of people. And so for him, that dude, he said he seemed sincere, and that was very effective to me. And he says, hey, if you want to reach people, you guys should probably have a more sincere approach, such as that, just showing love to people. And he says, hey, if I was in that position, which he was trying to make it clear that he's not a Christian, but he says, hey, if I was in that position, I would have reached out to people because I found it imperative. And I'm like, yeah, he's right. We got to reach out, and yes, everybody's at different speeds. So, God's working on their hearts to get them a lot more confident in their relationship with Christ to share. But, that's part of the aim. We feel a desire and a compassion, a compelled passion to help people and to reach out and love and appreciate them. Don't get me wrong. We mess up. I mess up, but we're not supposed to have a habit of pursuing the stuff we used to do in our former life, but this is not just about living pious or living holy looking. This is about being holy. So, but I just feel like part of the church, we just tried to be distracted. We got a lot of distractions. To be holy is to pursue righteousness, but to be righteous is just simple belief. So that's it. That's really it. There's not like extra stuff, how to hear from God. I don't know. We don't know if these leaders are heard from God. Part of that is we got to see what their fruit is about. Some people may claim they're from God, and yet we don't know what their private life is like. We don't know if some of these folks, like Carl Lentz, actually out here doing Lord knows what. He was out here, he was cheating on his wife, I think. I'm just saying, like, some of these folks who claim that they want to get closer to God, maybe they had a gift, maybe, but it's almost like they became too arrogant and they start pursuing other stuff. And part of that is just, I couldn't tell you sometimes by that failure because, is that true? But I guess my point is just the faith is just that lot more simpler than people make it out to be. What do you want to do? Do you want to get a degree? Do you want to pursue this, pursue that? You know, people will tell you, drop your dreams, drop whatever you are passionate about and do this Christian thing and then hear from God. I'm like, is that biblical? Or are you just going to the Old Testament and referring Old Testament to today? Because you don't live with the Old Testament. Those things are supposed to be things that teach you about the New Testament, to teach you about the coming of Christ. That stuff is not supposed to teach you about a how-to guide to live today. That's New Testament. And that New Testament is far more simpler than what old people who try to be religious impose on us today. Man, I wish I had a better speech. I just came off as, man. But that's all I got. It's just, the faith is a lot more simpler than what these preachers and stuff try to impose on you, which is ironic because that was something that's not new from the church, that people try to add extra stuff to the simplicity of the gospel. It's not that hard. Your sanctification is to be like Christ, and it's easy baked into the system to be like Christ. You just need to know the freedom. You know, that freedom from belief. I'm talking too much. All right.